I'm Julianne Puente, head of school at Albuquerque Academy in New Mexico. The Academy is a leader in the world of independent schools. We honor our past while embracing the future of education. Even though I've been going to school in one shape or form for almost my entire life, I still learn something new every day. And I use that knowledge to tackle the challenges that should interest anyone who has a stake in the future we can't fully imagine. Thanks for joining me to hear about what I learned in school. Hello and welcome to What I Learned in School, a podcast from Albuquerque Academy where we reflect on education, values, and the experience that shape us. I'm Julianne Puente, head of school, and today I'm delighted to be joined by Judy Hudenko. Judy served as Academy's admissions director from 1991 to 2013, helping shape the first impression for generations of families. She and her husband, John, are also longtime members of the Academy community. Their sons, Kevin, class of 91, and Bill, class of 94, both graduated from the Academy. And for 37 years, Judy and John have been dedicated supporters and donors to the school. Originally from Hobbs, New Mexico, Judy brings a deep understanding of education and community and what it means to believe in a school over the long term. Judy, I'd love to hear a bit of your story. You grew up in Hobbs. Can you trace the journey from Hobbs to the Academy?
I can, because it's, I feel like it's a hero's journey, really, because I started it, was born and raised there. My parents were the town doctors. My mother, they came out in 1937, and she was the second woman doctor in the state. And of course, nobody would go to a woman doctor. So I grew up in a doctor's office because the house and the office were just a door between. So every day when I came home from school, I had to go in the office and help, because it was the days when if somebody was sick, they would stay there till they were done. Well, I went from there to learn. I really got involved in education because my mother, unbeknownst to me, was so involved in the education of that city that she was on the school board for 18 years without ever running. They just wrote her in. She was very much into excellence in education. And so I thought that's the way everybody's lives were, you know. So I went off to the University of Michigan, which I was just crazy about. Wanted to go there. Nobody down there went anywhere out of state ever. And so for me to just fly up there by myself and go to 40,000 people in the most incredible environment, I cannot say enough nice, because you would think you'd be lost in that, but I wasn't, because everybody I met would say I had a very heavy West Texas accent, and they would say, "Where are you from?"
Right.
So anyway, I had a wonderful situation there, and then I married John, and you went to Michigan also, and he went into the FBI as foreign counterintelligence agents, which is basically looking for Russian spies. And so we got to transferred to New York City, which I cried all the way. I know you were back there a lot, but I
wasn't just back there. I was born there.
Well, so. I cried all the way from Newark. Okay.
Well, I cry when I land in Newark too.
Yeah, that's the way it was. And so we got our home there. And of course, what changed my life was having my kids, because I had this son when he was born. I had no parenting skills whatsoever, but I just had this kid that was so different, you know, and he was reading early, like not quite 3, and I mean anything he wanted to. And I thought, well, that's because we do this or do that.
So how old were they when you
third grade
returned?
For Kevin, and preschool for
And
Bill.
so what brought you back to Albuquerque?
John. We come back, and then we're scared a little bit of Albuquerque because, I'm from a small town. But after I had gone to New York, and
I have to say, I find that a little bit funny.
It is hilarious. Coming from
Hobbs and then Ann Arbor and New York, now you're afraid coming to Albuquerque.
Yeah, well, I wasn't by then, but in the beginning, we used to have meetings in Hobbs for the basketball tournaments about the evils of Albuquerque.
Oh, wow.
So, you talk about a and that's another part of how I got to where we got to in admission, is that I believe I had absolutely no idea about the culture of independent schools.
Mm-hmm.
I was a rabid public school
Sure.
supporter,
Mm-hmm.
and did everything that you had to do to help make the public schools
Sure.
be successful. That's what I saw my mother do, and that's what
Mhm.
she did for us. And it was
Mm-hmm.
we had amazing things down in Hobbs because of my mother, and because they were an oil area.
Yep.
They had way too much money, so they had all that to do.
So how did you end up at the academy?
Well, I was not happy with. I gave them an article that I read about Albuquerque Academy on the drive moving here. I stopped to get a paper, and there was this article in the paper about Albuquerque
Mhm.
Academy. And Mr. Harper was talking about the school and how different it was, and the
Mhm.
outdoor program.
Sure.
And I was I was so amazed with that. And I told John, I said, this is really probably something we should look at,
Mhm.
and see what
Mhm.
it's all about. But in the meantime, I go get involved with the public schools and the gifted programs and the parents of gifted programs, all that kind of stuff. And the thing that turned me so negatively about the academy was I used to volunteer almost every day at school. And one of the days I got there, the principal said, you can't work in the library today because we have the district counselors here.
Mhm.
I'm like, what are the counselors here for? And the reason the counselors are there is because the admission letters from the academy have come out.
Mhm.
And I'm like, again, I'm so naive. I don't
Right.
even know what that's about.
Right.
And she said they are so upset that we have to close school on those days and do the counseling of the students who have not been admitted,
Hmm.
especially because that school had so many highly gifted
Mhm.
kids that they're all expecting to get in.
Right.
And so I came home ready for bear. Tell John, if he ever hears me think of even talking to anyone at the academy, I hope you kill me. That didn't work out in the
No,
long
it
run.
didn't.
No, it didn't. And so then the next thing that happened is I had needed a place to run. I started doing state conferences for parents on gifted,
Mhm.
and there was no place to run it. So Bill Ware at the time was the admission director. He was in math, and he eventually went to college guidance. He'd been here for like 11 years. And someone said, well, why don't you go out to the academy and ask if you could use their facility? So then I went to out here, and he showed me around, showed me the Performing Arts Center there, and it was perfect. Couldn't have been nicer. And he told me this when I was being interviewed for the job. He said, do you remember the day you came out here? And I said, yes. He said, do you remember what you said? And I said, no. And he said, well, you said, you're not nearly as stuffy as I thought you would be. And he said, I guess you never expected to have your child apply.
Right. Right. Right.
And of course, I fell in love the moment I came out here. But
Mhm.
so he decides that I'm now on the parent board here at the academy, and I was elected to be president of the parent board.
Right.
And so
So the Parents Association.
Parents Association, yes. And so I went to this meeting, and they Mr. Bobinette, who was then my
Then the head of school.
headmaster, he said that Bill Ware had decided to move to college guidance, and
Mhm.
so they had an opening for the admission spot. And I didn't even think about the job, but I did want to talk to him about what I thought was missing in admission.
Mhm.
And so I made of course, he was meeting with me anyway for the Parents Association. I said, I want to tell you something about the admission, because I said it's just unfriendly. You don't feel that anybody cares whether you're there, and that's your opinion of the school from the outside anyway.
Mhm.
And I said, I just think it would be so easy to just do a few things. He says, why don't you apply for the job? I said, I don't want the job. I just want to tell you how to do it.
Right.
And so it was funny because I'd go home that night, and we always had family dinners together. And Kevin and Bill, he's in high school, and so was Bill at that point. And I tell him this story, and then I said, I've been thinking about it, and I said that's one job I would really like to have. But I said they would never hire me because, number one, I'm not easy, and number two, they always have somebody who's teaching, and so I wouldn't. Although I taught English, but I didn't think that would work. And it got really quiet, and the boys put their cutlery down and said, "This is the first time we've ever been ashamed of you." It just killed me. And I said, "What are you talking about?" And they said, "Because you always tell us that you go for it whether you're going to get it or not, because that's what you want to do." And they've learned that at school too, by the way. And so I was so embarrassed that I went back into Bob and told him I was going to, how do I go about applying for it? And so that's really what happened. But I think back on this and what you folks are, I'm sure, dealing with now from an advancement point of view or many other things is that time in history with somebody like Mr. Bobinet, who came in here thinking that he wanted admission totally changed. But he didn't know exactly how that should look either. But, while all this is happening, people are wanting to apply. You've got to do something. And he wanted to be, his goal when he talked to me was that he wanted to concentrate on diversity, but he wanted it to be a level playing field for everyone. And so how are you going to do that?
Sure.
That he was asking me that. And I'm like, well, I'm going to have to think about that a bit.
Right.
But the point is, he gave me carte blanche to decide. Now, the thing that was better is, I don't know, do you know him? Have you met with him?
I haven't met him face to face.
Well, he originally was not, he did a lot of work other places, but he was at the University of Chicago as director of financial aid, and then he moved to Occidental and did admission there. So he had a lot of that was his background anyway. So what he did with me is that we met weekly, and I would tell him what I'd come up with, and he would think about whether or not he thought that was okay.
Right.
But what I didn't know is that I didn't know that was going to be such a shock to the city. And so it was an extremely difficult first 5 years because you're changing all the rules, and I didn't know we were changing rules.
Right. And the other thing that at that time, there weren't other independent schools really at the time, and certainly no charter schools. And the city was just different in its makeup of it. And you talk about how like admissions have changed. I'm of the belief, I'm like, how do I get to yes? Yeah. So it's not how many 11-year-olds we turn down, but how many can we get at the academy? The academy really matters to this city. So, in just looking at this year for early admissions, we had a 94% yield rate. 150 kids have enrolled, signed contracts for 6th grade. It's actually unheard of.
I know.
It's just unheard of. And so, the way that we've designed the school now is I simply added another section in 6th grade to keep the class sizes down and to accommodate more kids.
How many are you getting at 6th grade now?
Well, we'll probably end up opening next year at about 160, 165. So back in the day, it was, about 130, 125. So it's just different. So I understand with like things need to change. You need outsiders to come in and
absolutely
look at it and do what what you feel is the best for this, to serve the mission, to serve the community, to serve the school, and no, it isn't always popular, right?
Right.
So,
And part for me was the fact that I was so enthralled with the school myself that I honestly thought that I had absolutely no background in the idea that anybody anywhere in any independent school did anything except be totally across the board fair, doing the same thing for everyone. So even going to conferences for me was always shocking because, it was not, what he was telling me we were going to be doing.
Right.
And so now, within about 2 weeks, he calls me up into my office and he says, I want to stop the testing for, the standardized testing because he thought that was keeping it not being a fair play. And it's absolutely true. But then how do you find out whether kids are going to be successful? And so Don Smith was very much involved, and Jean Gardner.
He's been on our show.
Yes, I know. And I hope he didn't talk about this, but I just went in and I said, I need you to make me a test that shows for fifth graders in Albuquerque, what is it that they absolutely have to know to be successful in that area? I don't need to know that they're brilliant. I just need to know, have they got enough going that they think they can do it? And I honestly think if I were at another independent school, I would still have him do that because it was just so amazing.
Right. And
so we did that. And then the writing sample was another thing where I just learned so much by making so many mistakes,
So let me just tell you, or ask you, so if you were the admissions director for 22 years, clearly the school has changed over that time. It's changed to now, but I'm more interested on what do you feel stayed the same throughout your time here and even looking at the academy today?
I wish I knew more about the admission process right now, but I have complete faith in the staff and people that I know here that, some were left here, some have been, obviously a lot have been added, but I have complete faith that they're trying to follow principles and guidelines that are fair for people.
Yeah.
And that they care about how people feel when they come here. I don't think that was true at all when I first got here because everything that we did in our programming or coming up with something was to try to open the school so people didn't feel like, and admission to me is so important because if you want to call the academy back then in particular, it was the admission office that answered. You have somebody that isn't particularly kind and caring and, obviously wants to help them. That's the feeling that they're going to have the rest of their lives.
Yeah, couldn't agree.
I mean, you just can't have that.
Right.
And
so one of the things when I got here, a lot of schools now you call and you get a switchboard or you have to, no, you call the academy. A human being answers the phone, and times have changed too. Now you don't really even call the admissions office; it's all written, it's all online. But when parents call, they're trusting us with their child. So to make sure that somebody is answering the phone, that is to me was critical, and so we figured this out. So 1 of 4 people answer the phone, and we can get their information, that they need immediately, or we certainly try. So that certainly comes from, that's been in the ethos at the school of making it individualized, of caring deeply, of being passionate, making sure people feel seen and valued, and that I'm sure, like you, I want every person to have an academy experience. As soon as you come through the gate, whether you're watching your grandson play C-team basketball or you're a parent of 4 graduates that you have a great experience when you come onto this campus and you interact in that way. So tell me about being a parent here. What was your experience in that way and seeing the academy through your boys' eyes?
I loved it, and it's odd situation. There were times I remember one specific time with my eldest that would not be considered a wonderful thing for a lot of people, but it was for me, is that we were talking about some actually political thing about what they thought about something at the table. And my son, as a senior, says, I just don't know how I feel about that. And he says, ever since I've been in humanities, I can't, I would just have to think about it for a long time. And I felt like that was worth every penny to me.
Right.
Because that's what you want.
Right.
I remember talking to parents where they would so often feel that, they were afraid their kids were going to come here and they were either going to be, they might be very religious or they might be very not religious. And my point to them always was that as a parent, there's no better place in the world than some place where the staff and faculty are trying to make the students feel that, your biggest thing is to learn how to listen and how to hear different ideas, and then how to be respectful to everybody. And that's what the culture is. And I counted on that,
right.
As a parent, that and I also used to tell them that at the same time, if you're worried about how you feel personally, then there's no better time than in high school to do that. When they go off to college, you can't have a conversation with them anymore. It's over.
Yes.
So I loved it. It was wonderful. And I think that my experience here as an employee was very similar to theirs. There's something about the academy that is so different in the fact that they allow people to think outside the box and don't whap them upside the head for doing so and say, well, here's why we might not want to do this, or how about we try this? If it doesn't work, we'll do something else. In all the schools I visited and all the years I was here from other states, I do not ever remember that deep a commitment to that. I think New Mexico's that way. It's one reason I love this state. And like when I was doing things for gifted kids, you can walk up to Santa Fe and walk into any of the representative's office. You don't need to know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody to get you an appointment. That may not go forever, but it certainly was back then. I'm a total nobody. I can walk up there and say, what are you doing for gifted education? And they'll sit down and talk to you. So
right.
That's different.
So we just to kind of go back a little bit, what did you see as the admission office's role in the lives of the students you admitted after they got here? Like, what did you do to stay engaged or to work with families? I think people have the misnomer that you just admit them and it's done. What did you see your role in their journey once they got here?
Well, I found that a huge part of my job after they were in school was counseling. Because I think that we spent so much time with the parents during the admission process that they would come back in and say, something's not going just right in this class or whatever.
Yeah.
And I would talk to them, but I also got to the right persons and you to talk to. So that's one way. There were a lot that just went along and you didn't know. There were a number of kids from very, very poor backgrounds that I got involved in on numerous occasions because back in that day, I don't think we had a lot of people who understood what some of the issues were for kids who were just coming. One came to mind just then. There was a young boy that I had admitted, and he he was so bright, but he was down in the thing and he just was not turning in his homework, which is not normal for here. And so they just couldn't get him to turn in the homework. And so finally, one of the teachers said, "Would you come down here and talk to us about this kid?" And I said, "Yes, I will." So I went down there and I brought the kid in and I said, "What's going on here? I know how smart you are. What's going on?" He said, "Nothing." He said, "I'm doing my homework." And I said, "Where is it?" He said, "It's at home. It's homework." I said,
Right.
"Well, you have to turn it in.
Right.
Because they want you to turn it in." They never had any more problems with him. But he just didn't have any normal experiences in school. We had kids that I got involved with. We had one child during my time who I didn't find out for a couple of years was living in a car with her mother. I mean, they're just backgrounds that you have to start understanding that things are different.
Yep. That has not changed.
Yeah. And then it went to, by the time I left, we had that year 49% students of color. I didn't make it to 50. But we didn't do any of that based on, we want more of this or more of that.
Yeah.
So I was happy about that.
So just like switching gears, you have supported the Academy, both you and John, also financially. Actually, you've given for 37 consecutive years.
Whoa, did you know that?
Did you know that? We do.
I didn't know.
So I'd love to, maybe you could talk a little bit about what motivates you to continue to offer philanthropic support to an institution that you gave a good portion of your life to already.
Well, it's not hard. It's the fact that, to me, this is as close to a utopian situation for education anywhere in the country. This isn't just New Mexico. I would put us up against any school in the nation.
Me
and
too.
Mostly, not just academically. It's the culture. It's the kindness. It's the kind of things that I care about. And I want desperately for that to be available for the rest of forever. And I think that, and that went to admission for a lot of that because I was very nervous at the time about not having people feel that they would give if their kid was not admitted. And I think that's probably true with a lot of people. Everybody has different feelings. I would do it no matter what because it's such a special place, and it won't be if we don't have enough money to provide all the kinds of creativity and places for people to be.
Well,
and when we first started, and oh gosh, when we first even looked at the Academy, I went back. It was $3,000 for my son to come to school here, which we absolutely did not have. And I knew I was going to have to go back and get some kind of a job, but my parents were living with us. And they were sick, and I had my first grade teacher and somebody living in our dining room. It was a really wild
what was
time.
happening in that house?
Well, lots of we took care of a lot of old people in our lives.
It sounds like you took care of a lot of people.
And we did. And then we just didn't have the money. And my first grade teacher, she had met Kevin, and she was a close friend of my mom, didn't have kids herself. And when we were trying to figure out, if I went to work, I would need to start earning money for him to go the next year. So how are you going to go this year?
Right.
And she paid his first year, which is just remarkable to me.
Right.
And so, I think we need to pay forward.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, I want to thank you so much
I appreciate having a chance to get to know you and talk to you better as well.
And for your 22 years of service, and that, we, today I'm well aware that we ride the backs and the work of the people that came before us, and our job is to honor that and to keep the momentum and the mission moving forward. And hopefully we're making people like you proud with the work that we're doing today.
I haven't seen anything I'm not proud of.
Stick around. It's time for the teacher feature, when you get to meet one of our fantastic faculty members at the Academy. Today I'm really excited because I'm sitting down with someone who truly embodies the Academy spirit, alum, teacher, coach, and caretaker of one of our most beloved members of our community. Peter Levin, class of 2011, teaches 6th and 7th grade science, coaches basketball, and is the proud guardian of Academy's famous albino bunny, Butters. Peter, welcome. It's great to chat with you. And why don't we just start? You graduated in 2011 from the Academy. Why don't you just start by, how did you find the Academy? What's your story to how you landed here?
Well, thanks for having me. As a student, I guess the way I found it was being a student in Albuquerque, and my older sister and brother already went here, the 2007 and 2004, I think, when they graduated. So I'd already been on the campus since little, and was just enamored with coming here as a kid. So as a student, I knew I wanted to be here, and then the chance came and joined it. I was, I guess, as you say, a lifer from there till 2011.
Nice. And did you do Think Summer?
I did. My first job, I never did it as a student, actually, but my first job was Children's Workshop. So actually the building I've been teaching in the last 5 years was where my very first job was, with little 5-year-olds. Wow.
And so what are some memories that you have from being a student here? I mean, that's a very broad question, but are there parts of campus or particular teachers or classes or friendships or experiences that, you keep finding yourself going back to?
Yeah. I mean, there's so many. And I think starting as a teacher again, at first it was like, oh, wow, this is what the teachers are like as adults, kind of inside scoop. But I think one of the first things that still impacts me almost the most is the first day of 6th grade.
Yeah.
Me and another student connected, and we were going to interview each other. But then I got sick and ended up throwing up and going home. But then he ended up being my best friend, and that's Andy Gorvetzian, who we graduated together, and then he came back and was teaching.
I didn't know this, that you were that great friends from when you were
I was his best man. He's on his PhD now, so he's not here currently, but he's still here coaching with me right now. We're coaching middle school basketball. So I mean, just in terms of having that kind of friendship, and so many of my friends that I made in 6th grade, not just Andy, we're still friends. We're hanging out on Sunday. So the friendships and community definitely stuck with me. And so much of the time, I feel like a lot of time I think about, there is things in class, like Dr. Knapp, I had 2 years in a row. I think I can only write because of him. And then so many things outside of class, just the campus and running around with other friends and exploring everything.
So you are a scientist and studied extensively. As we say, you went all the way. What sparked your interest in that, and how were you prepared as an academic and a scholar when you went on to college experience and then to get your doctorate?
Yeah, I guess I do identify as a scientist, but even more as an educator, I think.
Yeah, I
and it is the hybrid, because it's kind of more led by a mission than led by a destination career-wise. I always want to focus on helping children develop and connect them with nature and understand nature through science.
Yeah.
And so I followed that through my undergrad, where I studied the Santa Fe River at Colorado College, and then did a lot of environmental education stuff in New Mexico and abroad in Costa Rica. And then I was in Minnesota, where I was doing that type of work with preschoolers. And then eventually found myself in academia, where I could follow my crazy ideas, and professors be like, oh, that's a cool idea. I'm like, really? We can do something with that? And eventually my research brought me to wanting to be in a classroom to look at how I can use science education in a classroom setting to meet all students. And I was stuck in my house studying schools in Minneapolis, feeling very disjointed because I wasn't in a classroom.
Right.
When my sister got an email from the alumni, something from Academy, so that alumni outreach works, that she forwarded to me about the Teaching Fellows program.
Right.
And I was like, oh, wow, I could teach at Academy, do my research here. And then it all came together after that.
Well, I distinctly remember your interview. So we were on Zoom.
Yeah.
And we finished, and I said to Stephanie Lipkowitz, I'm like, oh my God, why is he applying for a teaching fellows position? He should just, he should just be a full-time teacher. And you were so like thoughtful and like passionate, but understated in the same way. A very typical Academy in a lot. And I was like, oh my gosh, if this is what the teaching fellow program yields, like we are set. And I just felt really fortunate that you said yes. And then we were able to offer you a full-time faculty position, a year later. And it's been great in that way. So how has it been being a faculty member? And how has like your appreciation or understanding of the Academy changed from your student experience?
Yeah, I think when I got into the faculty kind of position, it only lasted for a week or two where it was like, oh, this is weird. I'm like a teacher here and like walk into a building and like get hit with a memory as a student and be like, oh, whoa. But then it was like totally different position, totally different like life I'm living. And as a faculty member here, I think some of the things I've learned the most are from other faculty, both in collaborating with them and that teaching fellows position gave me time to do research. So my research was about like the teachers here and the knowledge they have about how they connect with students to be effective teachers. And so all of that I've been inspired working with the adults I get to work with. And I think that's been one of the biggest things that I appreciate in the teacher community here. And the students are just joyful to work with. I taught middle school until coming here, and they're just middle schoolers are a special breed of put together and also falling apart, but really just fun, and they have such energy. And when you bring it to like learning, which Academy students like to do, it's just very fulfilling.
So you teach in 6-7. So how do you make studying science engaging, fun, inspiring? Like, how do you approach that with that age group?
Yeah, and I think that is the good way to put it, because I think with that age group, I'm mostly focusing on, at that moment, I'm not going to create scientists. Like, it's not going to be in my classroom where it's like a PhD scientist walks out. But what I want them to do is to understand what science is, or even be like connected or excited about the idea of studying at Academy. And even though like become a more science student, at least they have some tools and perspectives on how science can help you appreciate the world. And so I think the way I do that in my class is just always trying to find, like, of the lessons I'm trying to get across, what are the most tangible for a student of that age to grasp onto, and how can I present it to them in a way that's engaging? And that can be whether it's through a type of lab or going outside a lot, working with a dock garden, just finding some mechanism that makes the learning I'm hoping them to get more tangible and engaging. So it's a lot of movement, a lot of like hands-on, a lot of bringing in wildlife into the classroom and different kind of ways to do that.
Well, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask about Butters. And so maybe you can just tell our one listener, who is probably my mom, who Butters is and why you decided to share Butters with the kids.
Yeah, I think I'll start at first that Mr. Pecknick and Mr. Anderson have been inspiring mentors. Yeah. And they're always helping children interact with animals.
Sure.
And Butters is my pet rabbit that I adopted in 2018 in Minneapolis. And then I was working here, and when it came to our Halloween parade, no one knew I had him. And then Halloween parade came around. I was like, oh, I should dress him up and we can be a couple's costume. So day one of Butters on campus was a surprise Halloween visit where he's a Luna moth and I was a caterpillar.
Love it.
And that kind of just started the whole, celebrity teacher that Butters is. But he's amazing in that he really calms students.
Yeah.
Like when students had really hard days, like run home and grab him. We've had some crises. We've done that. And in the classroom, I remember I had a parent during parents' night being like, he's like, it's amazing when you're holding Butters up there because I'll be looking and I'll be like, oh, so cute. And I'm calm. And then I look and I listen to what you're talking about.
Right.
And it's funny because he does help you focus. He did last Monday retire officially.
I know.
So he's now, after 5 years serving academy, taking some rest at home. But yeah, he's been a huge part of my teaching style.
We should give him a gift card to some local place like
some local garden to go take all their greens.
That's right. So back to your classroom, what are some labs or particular lessons that you find particularly exciting or that you love to teach?
I was just talking about this one the other day. I'm not sure. It was one that comes up to me when I started teaching it was interesting. There's a mineral lab we do in 6th grade. And a lot of labs we change and new things and always adopting things. And this one is the same as when I was a student.
Right.
And as I started teaching it, I was like, oh, this is when I first started to love science because it's probably similar to a lot of mineral labs. We have a ton of rocks and I'm teaching students the skills of identifying, which is a very exciting, empowering thing. And use the magnet and you can do the acid test. And it's just a very cool, tangible skill. And I remember as a student, I was like, with Miss Journey, I was like, wow, that was really cool. And then I got to teach it. And I was like, oh, this is what brought me into this.
Right.
So that one always comes to mind.
So you're coaching.
Yeah.
And so why don't you tell us a little bit about what that experience has been like? Yeah,
coaching, a lot of it came because with Mr. Andy Gorvetzian here, we both played basketball together and we're like, oh, it'd be fun to coach that together. So it kind of came from that and we're still coaching together. And that's been a really fun avenue because I like having a lot of ways to get to know students that isn't just my classroom. Butters is one of those, running some clubs have been that, and coaching is another. I'm discovering is another really interesting and cool role with students.
Isn't it?
Yeah. And especially for me, working more with boys at that age, because a lot of times girls of the age are more interested in connecting with adults generally, and boys sometimes aren't as much. But there's so much I'd like to help them see a mature, sensitive kind of male figure, and being a coach has been a fun way to kind of get to know some students I wouldn't otherwise.
So you played basketball here as a student. Did you play any other sports?
Well, growing up, soccer was my life. And I was going to be playing here. And I played middle school basketball. But then when I was 14, somewhere around there, I got a condition called POTS, which basically it's called post-oral orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. Basically, your heart compensates. When you stand up, your blood pressure goes down a little bit, so our heart rate goes up a little bit. But for someone with POTS, you'd go from say 60, instead of going up to 65, you go to 80. And then when you run, it makes your heart, a quick sprint is 200.
Wow.
And so
that doesn't seem comfortable.
It's not comfortable, and it really doesn't work in soccer where you're starting and stopping so much, and you don't get the oxygen to your brain as much. So that ended my soccer career before I could really start at academy. So then I mostly stuck to track because I could sprint really fast and then fall over.
I'm sure your parents were thrilled.
Well, I recovered. You just lay down and it gets better. But yeah, so track was my high school sport. And working with Coach Kedge and so many of the coaches, Coach Mike, Doc Field, was really my community sport-wise here. And it was a really fun experience.
So what's your favorite place on campus?
On campus, since becoming a teacher here through my job and Mr. Pecknick, Mr. Anderson, I've always been nature oriented, and they've really helped me explode that into being a naturalist.
Yeah.
And I'm learning this is one of the top 4 birding places in the city. And so being able to take kids and just walk all over the campus and pay attention to which birds migrate through here. Like last year, me and Miss Madigan were standing there and saw this bird. I was like, oh, that might be a palm warbler, which it was, which is a very, very rare bird. Like, there's probably only 2 seen in Albuquerque all of last like spring migration.
Huh.
So if you're walking around and paying attention, like the nature here is insane.
Right.
And taking kids out sometimes during the water lab and mineral unit, a lot of times we take kids out into the arroyo to see like evidence of moving water. And that's a really fun place to go because kids don't really go there. Sometimes security rolls up and be like, what you guys up to? I'm like, oh, it's 6th grade science.
We're fine. We're good.
So I think it's like all the natural spaces and the dock garden. I guess it's mostly the outdoors that really is amazing.
So I have wanted to put up like an owl cam when they come back this spring so that we can just stream and then watch it because I do find the wildlife on campus very calming and enchanting in its own way, and was not a birder. I would not say I am a birder, but I love feeding birds and taking care of them, and have quite an array in my backyard that has been just exciting. I love the coyotes. I love the cranes, and of course the roadrunners. But it is really spectacular. It's like an oasis, the campus is.
Yeah, it is.
And particularly in the morning, if you get here before the academy kind of wakes up, if you will.
Yeah.
I feel like it's like a night at the museum.
Yeah, totally.
And then the animals like kind of retreat. And then when they're waiting for us to go home, and they'll come back out. And, I love that about our school.
Yeah, I think even during 2020, I wasn't working here yet.
Yeah.
But the period of time that the kids weren't on campus, there was a lot more wildlife seen just strolling through campus.
Oh, we had all the coyotes. I mean, they were brazen.
Yeah,
they
like,
just
took over the campus.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think when I was thinking kind of about this time talking, I was trying to think about my time as a student and a teacher. And seeing in my friends, I think one of the things that Academy does, aside from the rigor, being able to write, do science and all that, I think it instills a level of thoughtfulness in people that is one of those intangibles.
Yep.
But I think that, and I do see in like all my friends, there's a level of, particularly a lot of our students may come from a more privileged class. They are grounded in a thoughtfulness about the world around them and like a curiosity, which you don't always see. And I think all my friends, like, is it just I have good people around me? It's like, yes, but I also think the school like makes you think in a more reflective way.
Today I was out on the path, just like randomly interviewing kids, and so anybody who was just walking next to somebody, I just stopped them and just said, how did you become friends? And the stories were amazing. And it was completely random. There's nothing that was, fixed about it. And from grade 6 to grade 12, they actually all brought up the idea of the thoughtfulness, how they used words like curiosity, and how they really have found their people here. So, interviewing 6th graders is hilarious. Like they just started and they're already like, well, we met on the first day and we've been best friends ever since.
Yeah.
To now, gosh, you're 15 years out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And are talking in a similar way as a grown man about your friends, some of whom you've made when you were 11.
Yeah.
I think it's really a testament to the academy, and this place is much softer than it gets credit for. It's known for being competitive, but I have just found the people here and the students grateful, and there's a humility that comes here, and the faculty like yourself and students who are uber smart. I mean, mega smart and studied and thoughtful, are humble and curious and remain like lifelong learners. And it is like in the water here.
Yeah. Yeah, it's such a hard intangible to explain. And I do think that doesn't get across when you're talking about the academy. They do always think that like the rigor, all of that, but it is like it's more just like a community raising of young, thoughtful minds.
Yeah. All right. So this is the part of our show where we call lightning round.
Okay, I'm ready.
I'm going to give you a pair, and you say the first thing that best answers the question. Okay.
Ready.
Red or green?
Green.
Oh. Early mornings or late nights?
Early mornings.
Lab experiment or outdoor field study?
Outdoor field study.
All right. They always say that I'm going to do these pairs, and then the questions stop being pairs. All right. Here we go. You ready? Favorite science topic to teach?
Birds or fungi?
Oh, I love that. Oh, we didn't even talk about the fungi club.
Yeah, fungi club's a good time too.
I mean, I see you walking around. There are like 40 kids
yeah.
following you, like looking at the base of trees. I love it. Love it. All right. What's the most common phrase you say in class?
Oh, you need to ask one of my students. I feel like sometimes I start off in a kind of showtimey way, like on this episode of science class or something, or like, what do you remember from last class? Try to like keep it rolling again, if I had to guess.
And speaking as Butter's agent, did you feel he knew he was as famous and important to the kids at Academy as he is?
Yeah. He knows. That's like his master plan. I don't think he's innocent. He knows what he's up to. He's here to influence everyone.
All right. And a final, Roadrunner or Coyote?
Oh, would never have thought of those as opposites to pick from, but I guess Roadrunner, I guess.
Could be your favorite. You know, it's not as opposite, right? Roadrunner. Peter, I want to thank you so much for spending some time talking to me, but most of all, I want to thank you for choosing to teach at the Academy. We're a better school because of you, and I am very grateful that we get a chance to work together every day. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a fantastic school to start my teaching career, and it's fun to come here and talk about some of the magical parts.
I want to thank Judy Hudenko for helping me explore the history of our admissions department, as well as our guest, Peter Levin. I'm very fortunate to be part of a team that cares so deeply about education. Go Chargers! Thanks for listening to What I Learned in School to learn a little bit about Albuquerque Academy. Send us your comments and questions to headofschool@aa.edu. You can listen to all of our episodes on our website at aa.edu and wherever you get your podcasts.